Dawn over a shallow basin in the Gobi. Wind skims ripples across a tannin-dark pool. Reeds whisper, and a tiny theropod slides from the bank into the water without a splash. A narrow-toothed snout breaks the surface like a periscope. The neck kinks, the body torpedoes forward, and a flash of silver disappears inside the jaws. The hunter is Netovenator, a raptor built for water. Netovenator lived in late Cretaceous Mongolia, among dune fields incised by channels, ponds, and oases that waxed and waned with seasonal storms. Its bones were recovered at Hermientsav in the Barun Goyo Formation. The holotype is a mostly articulated skeleton that preserves a nearly complete skull, an extended cervical series, a run of dorsal vertebrae with their ribs, elements of the forelimb, and parts of both feet. The specimen's articulation matters. It fixes the orientation of the ribs and the posture of the chest, letting bone geometry translate directly into body shape, and body shape into behavior. Nature. Start with the skull. The premaxilla, the front of the snout, is low and pierced by a lattice of tiny foramina that house nerves and blood vessels, a complex neurovascular system seen in its close relative Halscaraptor. At the tip, 13 closely packed premaxillary teeth form a comb of tall, unserrated crowns designed to seize slippery prey. Along the maxilla, the first few teeth are reduced before the series resumes with long, fang-like spikes. The external nares is unusually long, sits farther back than in typical land-dwelling raptors, and faces up and to the side. Together, these traits sketch a fishing face, sensitive, grasping, and streamlined. Nature. Continue down the neck. 10 elongated cervical vertebrae give Netovenator a Ricci S-curving profile, but the joints are built for control. The anterior cervicals show lobe-like fused post-zygapophyses and horizontal articulations that resist twisting. Compared with Halscaraptor, the neck seems proportionally shorter, a trade that would trim drag and quicken acceleration underwater while still allowing precise strikes. The skull and neck together sketch a predator that keeps its eyes above the surface, then darts the head forward in a tight, controlled lunge. Nature. Now the hallmark ribs in expert divers such as penguins. The dorsal ribs sweep backward and sit nearly horizontal, flattening the chest and stretching it into a sleek, low hull. Netovenator mirrors that pattern. Its dorsal ribs angle posteriorly and lie close to horizontal, where they meet the vertebrae, producing a dorso-ventrally compressed torso. Hydrodynamics predicts exactly this solution. Lower cross-sectional area means less drag. A longer rib cage moves volume rearward, which stabilizes pitch and makes thrust more efficient. A streamlined hull, seen clearly in birds and echoed in mammals like the platypus, appears here in bone in a non-avian dinosaur. Nature Live Science. Forelimb bones reinforce the picture. The humerus is short relative to the trunk and distally flattened. The ulna is medial-laterally compressed with a sharp posterior edge. Those shapes stiffen the forearm and resist bending through water, hinting at an oar-like skull. Netovenator's hands were not broad penguin paddles, but paired with a long, low body and a counterbalancing tail. The limbs look built to sweep water efficiently during short submerged lunges, especially along shallow margins. The preserved feet add traction both in water and on sand, completing an amphibious toolkit sized for edges and margins. Nature. Phylogenetically, Netovenator nests in Halscaraptorinae at the base of Dromaeosauridae, a clan of small, bird-like predators better known for sickle claws than swimming. Halscaraptor's unveiling in 2010 ignited a debate about semi-aquatic raptors. Detractors argued its odd features could reflect general Maniraptoran trends instead of paddling. Natovanator tilts the scales by preserving the chest in articulation and replicating multiple aquatic signals in the skull and forelimb. It supports the idea that some dromaeosaurs independently evolved hydrodynamic bodies, a rare experiment among non-avian dinosaurs. Nature National Geographic. Scale the animal in your mind. Contemporary reports and later references describe a very small predator, under a meter in length, about 45 to 70 centimeters, with a skull roughly 7 centimeters long. At that size, Natovanator would pivot and accelerate quickly, tuck into reeds, and exploit ankle-deep pools where bigger hunters would run aground. Small mass also reduces the energetic cost of short bursts and lets the animal haul out swiftly to warm and dry. The miniaturized body plan fits a life of ambush in tight, shallow spaces. Voice of America, Wikipedia. Picture the hunt. Storm-fed runoff charges down a wash and settles into a basin amid dunes. As the sun burns water away, life concentrates small fish, amphibians, crustaceans, aquatic insects. Natovanator patrols the margins where reeds and mud meet open water. The long snout dips, pressure shifts tickle the nerve-rich tip. The mouth snaps sideways like a gore. Smooth, unserrated teeth slide in cleanly, pinning the catch without shredding it, ideal for gulping prey whole. With the ribs acting as a built-in hull, the little hunter spends more time moving forward and less time pushing water aside. On land, it moves like a small, alert raptor. The feet retain the familiar dromaeosaur blueprint with grasping toes and jingly-moid ankle joints, giving traction on loose sand and leverage on rotting logs. The tail, stiffened by horizontal zygapophyses and expanded laminae, doubles as a keel in water and a balance pole on shore. In a single day, Natovanator might shuttle repeatedly between sand and shallows, loping along dune faces, pausing to listen in the reeds, then sliding into the pool for another careful raid. The snout's neurovascular network deserves focus. In crocodilians, facial canals transmit exquisite tactile information, letting the animals sense faint ripples in dark water. In Natovanator and Halscaraptor, the density and pattern of foramina in the premaxilla imply similar sensitivity, coupled with retracted, dorsolaterally positioned nostrils. The head looks engineered to hunt, while most of the skull stays submerged and the airway remains high. That combination would allow stealth and breath control during slow, deliberate stalking along the reed line. Nature. Teeth refine the strategy. The tightly packed, tall premaxillary teeth at the tip form a living rake, ideal for snagging small, slippery animals. The first few maxillary teeth are reduced, changing occlusion and giving clearance for the front comb. Posterior teeth are longer and slender, perfect for holding rather than slicing. Microscopic serrations are absent, consistent with a diet of prey meant to be swallowed whole. Even the timing of tooth replacement appears specialized. Large incoming replacement teeth in the premaxilla suggest a delayed schedule that maintains the gripping apparatus at peak performance. Nature. Ribs link anatomy to physics. Posteriorly oriented shafts lower the body's profile, reducing frontal area and, with it, form drag. Setting the proximal ribs nearly horizontal lengthens the torso and shifts volume rearward, damping pitch oscillations in the forelimb skull. In diving birds, the same geometry declutters flow around the shoulder girdle and lets the wing stroke bite cleanly into water. Natovanator's ribcage reproduces that blueprint with bones in place, not scattered, which strengthens the inference from structure to function. Why this lifestyle here? The Barun Goyot was an arid to semi-arid system of dunes, alluvial plains, and interleaved shallow water deposits, exactly the kind of landscape where temporary lakes and channels created brief aquatic booms. A predator that could transition from sprinting on sand to slipping through water would exploit a seasonal buffet in vertebrates and fish trapped as basin shrank, tadpoles thickening into frogs, insects massing at the surface. Halscaraptorines read like specialists in that unstable edge Wikipedia. Behavior follows constraints. Natovenator lacked the heavy, high-spined tail of spinosaurids or the broad, flight-worthy wings of birds, so it likely favored shallow dives and submerged lunges over deep, pelagic pursuit. A typical sequence might be crouch, slide, 2 or 3 powerful skulls, jaws open, lateral strike, then a hind limb kick to bolt into cover. The long neck gives reach. The streamlined torso closes distance with minimal drag. Resting would mean basking on warm sand to dry feathers or filaments and to top up body heat for the next cold plunge. Predators shape communities through fear as much as through teeth. In a shrinking basin, fish move differently when a small, dark shape shadows the reed line. Insects lift and drift. Amphibians tuck under mats of algae, and scavengers learn that after every strike, there are scales and scraps to steal. Natovenator's daily circuits could have structured the entire pool, changing where animals hid and how plants spread, right up until the last puddle dried and the hunter loped to the next oasis. The discovery carries weight beyond one tiny dinosaur. For years, semi-aquatic non-avian theropods were represented mainly by spinosaurids and ambiguous hints. Halscaraptor was a bolt of lightning, then a controversy. Natovenator provides the missing hull direct, articulated evidence that a dromaeosaur built a low, streamlined chest like a penguin's. It shows that maniraptorans explored the water-land boundary in more ways than flight, and that streamlining evolved independently in theropods multiple times, whenever water opened a niche that speed on land could not fill. Even the name is a thesis. Natovenator means swimming hunter, and Polydontus means many-toothed. The holotype is accessioned at the Mongolian Academy of Sciences in Ulaanbaatar, and the paper carefully notes the locality and horizon at Hermintsav, Umnogovi Province. Names can be poetic, but here the poetry is precise, a web of foramina in the snout. Many front teeth tightly packed, a canoe-shaped torso, short oaring arms. From bone to behavior is always an inference, but in this case, the chain of evidence is unusually tight. Nature. Seasonality ruled its calendar. After each storm, the basins filled and exploded with life, and Natovenator's world became a shallow archipelago of opportunities, fry schooling in the sun, water beetles paddling circles, tadpoles grazing algae into drifting clouds. As days passed and shorelines retreated, the hunter's routes tightened into predictable loops, a circuit from reed bed to sandbar to undercut bank and back until only shaded pockets remained. When pools winked out, the raptor shifted to dunes, stalking insects and small vertebrates among roots and burrows, waiting for the next pulse of rain to reset the map. It did not live alone. The Gobi then bustled with herbivores and predators, beaked browsers at the water's edge, armored ankylosaurs churning mud, and bird-like oviraptor urosaurs fussing over nests overhead. Toothed diving birds and early avians skimmed the channels. Natovenator fit between them, too small to challenge big hunters, and too specialized to waste energy on long, dry ground chases. It worked the margins where land met water, setting the rhythm of a pool panic in minnows. Hush in the reeds, calm, then another sudden strike, again. There is still much we do not know. Feathering is not preserved, but a pelt of simple filaments could have smoothed the body and trapped air for buoyancy control. The exact stroke mechanics remain to be modeled. Was propulsion dominated by the forelimbs, or did hind limb kicks do more work? Growth series would reveal how the hull changed with age, and bone histology could test for patterns seen in other semi-aquatic vertebrates. Future finds from Hermie and Save and nearby localities may add juvenile ribs, more of the shoulder girdle, and additional feet, turning inference into measurement. For now, imagine the quiet after rain. A dragonfly skates, ripples scribble bright lines on sand. Natovinator leans into the pool, ribs narrowing the torso into a shadow that barely disturbs the surface. A flash, a swirl, stillness again. In the late light, the hunter lifts its head, water beads clinging to the snout's tiny pores, and pads upslope to warm in the wind. Not every dinosaur towered or thundered. Some slipped, silent and sleek, through a world of reeds and reflected sky.